Good morning, and welcome to the JFCS Women of Valor Awards Luncheon. Today we join together to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of 25 outstanding women committed to improving the quality of life for all residents in our community. Okay. We have Jewel Ash, Lee Berkowitz, Carol Poteet Buchanan, Margaret Callahan, Audrey Coleman, B. Friedman, who's late, Carol B. Green, Marilyn Harwell, Dr. Mona Jane, Florence Katz, Lee Levine, Gwen McKenzie, Helen McBean, Diane McFarland, Gracie McGillicuddy, Carolyn Michael, Nikki Nylon, Nora Patterson, Lee Peterson, Flory Roberts, Marianne Robinson, Carol Siegler, Barbara Seymour, Lisa Walsh, and Sally Yanowitz. This event also celebrates the 25th anniversary of the founding of JFCS, a leading nonprofit organization which provides comprehensive counseling and social services for the entire community on a non-denominational basis. For 25 years, JFCS has offered hope and healing to people confronting life's challenges. We are indeed blessed to have so many outstanding women in our community, and selecting 25 was a very difficult task. The committee based their selection on the following criteria. In order to avoid any perceived conflict, recipient could not be a current member of the JFCS Board of Directors, nor be a current employee of any local foundation. The recipient must have tenured involvement with more than one local community organization, and at least one of these organizations is a human service or social service agency helping people. The recipient has provided leadership, not just philanthropic support, to the local community and organizations. The recipient is passionate about improving the quality of life for people in our community through her commitment and service to people. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Women of Valor Committee for their work and commitment to ensuring the success of this event. As I call your name, please stand to be recognized. Audience, please hold your applause until everyone has been acknowledged. Honorary Chair, Betty Schoenbaum, Judy Kahn, Terry Hansen, Sue Jacobson, Ruth Lando, Marie Monsky, and Emily Walsh-Perry. And special thanks to the JFCS staff who supported our efforts. Amanda Cattaneo, VISTA volunteer, and Andrea Byland, Vice President of Development. I would also like to thank local artist Debbie Danheiser for her creative contribution to this event. The featured work, Inside the Window of Community Compassion. Debbie, please stand to be recognized. Each of the recipients will receive a package of note cards and a personalized tile featuring the artwork. Thank you, Debbie. It is now my pleasure to ask Betty Schoenbaum, Honorary Chair, to come forward to offer the Motzi.
We are gathered here today, O Lord, to praise the women of valor. These women are a group of women chosen out of a lot of women who all should receive the Woman of Valor, but it's our 25th anniversary. On our 100th anniversary, we will have 100. May the sun shine on Sarasota, and may the sun shine on these wonderful women who are being honored here today for their diligence and their love of the work that they're doing for others. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Thank you, God, for the bread from the earth. Amen.
JFCS is dedicated to changing people's lives for the better, and it is in this spirit that we honor our 25 exceptional women today. With programs that range from assisting isolated seniors to guiding and mentoring children to prevent school suspension, to preventing family homelessness in our community, we have changed more than 19,000 lives in this year alone. Our motto, "When you can't do it alone," encourages all people, regardless of religious affiliation, to turn to us for help. This mission of caring is one I know is shared by many of you in this room, and we at JFCS invite you to learn more about us by visiting our website or by coming into the agency for a tour. Now, while you finish your lunch, we are going to start our program so we can pay tribute to our 25 women of valor. It is my pleasure to introduce Joy Western, who serves as our Mistress of Ceremonies today. Joy is a nationally recognized photographer, an international best-selling author, a sought-after inspirational speaker, and founder and funder of the Pay It Forward Angels Network, which was created to give people in need her inspiring books for free. But what made Joy our choice for Mistress of Ceremonies today was her philosophy and efforts in giving back to our community in her own unique way. As the chairman for the Circle of Community Partnership, a creative collaboration between nonprofits and community leaders eager to make a difference, Joy is tirelessly working to create a forum where we can all share our talents, time, and resources, even when monies are scarce. Please join me in welcoming Joy Western.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this incredible event. I'm so happy to see all your faces. Many of them I've had the privilege of meeting and knowing, so it's like being with friends. I want to tell you a little bit about the program that I'm doing today because it's a little bit unique, and I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. When I was asked to do this, I realized that I had met many of these women in town but didn't really know who they were. And not only that, some of them had this incredible history that none of us knew about. So I came up with this concept, and JFCS loved it, and it was that I asked these women 3 particular questions that they're all going to answer, and to wrap that around, sending me a photograph of them at a different time in their life. So the 3 questions I asked were, what first birthed, when and what first birthed your desire to be a philanthropist? Who was your influence? What did you begin doing? And if you had a legacy to leave, what would it be? So when you hear these women, you're going to first begin by seeing them at a point in their life where many of you will not recognize them. And I'm going to leave it on a little bit so you can do a little guessing to have some fun with that. And then you're going to learn a little bit about them. Now, when I was doing this, I did a little research, and I came upon this beautiful biblical poem about a woman of valor. But the more that I read it, I realized that these women that we're honoring today are very much of the 21st century. So I decided to do something, write my own poem that I thought honored them. Now, because that's not my specialty, I'd appreciate open hearts and low on the critiquing, but here we go. Among us is a woman who's always giving a bit more, extending her bounty and heart to the needy and poor, standing up to a challenge no matter what's in the way, using wisdom and courage to guide her along the way. Her value is more precious than any diamond or pearl because she brings faith and hope into a difficult world. She welcomes a new future while honoring the past, lighting the course with her experience that's vast. This woman never thinks of herself as a messiah or sage. She just cares about somebody's story turning a better page. She's God's daughter, weaving straw problems into gold. It's the depth of her being, the essence of her soul. But where do we find this creature of heaven and earth? Is it some dream or some fantasy yet to be birthed? No. This angel is among us and deserves our applause. She's a shero, ready to fight for another cause. She is someone's mother, daughter, sister, or friend, that person who's always there with a hand to lend. A queen among queens, a leader who carries the ball. This is a woman of valor, a blessing and gift to us all. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin with honoring these wonderful women of valor. Here we go. This adorable child, no, you're guessing, good for you. Okay, being one of 7 children birthed at 11 years, this beauty learned about sharing and taking care of others almost out of the womb. From a very early age, both her parents encouraged all their children to donate to the church box for the poor and to give some of their food and clothing to the annual giving drive. This picture of this fair-skinned beauty was taken when she was donating her time as a secretary at her church, an experience which turned out to be quite an eye-opener, as it was the first time she came face-to-face with people truly in dire straits. Seeing how these individuals were dealing with housing, feeding, and taking care of their children and aging parents has given her the courage to personally overcome incredible odds, including multiple surgeries and physical limitations. Jewel Ash is truly a jewel, as she's seen here with her best friend and husband, Mike, considers volunteering truly a privilege. In fact, she says, it's sort of selfish, as helping others has added numerous benefits to her existence. The warmth of a recipient's gratitude, a smile that lets you know that in some small way you've contributed to making a difference, and the fabulous memories you accumulate over the years are priceless and precious. Designing Woman's Boutique, Pines of Sarasota, Oslo Rep Theater, and the Sarasota Opera Guild, Embracing Our Differences, YMCA, and the Jewish Housing Councils all benefit by her efforts. But knowing that JFC is the only local social service organization that serves the entire community on a non-dominational basis has endured this organization to her beyond beliefs. As far as her legacy, let it be that she considers herself a blessed woman who has been fortunate enough to be able to have the pleasure of giving back to this wonderful community over the years, and that along the way may even have helped a few people have a better life. This adorable child, who you see laughing and playing in the hay at her family's country home on this Sunday, the one day a week her father gave to himself and his children, only made her more aware of what is involved in being philanthropic. Her father was an active leader in Hamburg's Jewish community. He was a very hard worker with very little spare time, and he weekly gave gifts of oranges and chocolates and clothing and books to the less fortunate in town. She even admitted she was actually a bit jealous of them, since she wasn't allowed to read the comic books or eat the chocolate they gave out. But have no fear, she told me she's made up for that. And she doesn't know quite how, but she's sure that this childish envy turned into empathy in where her philanthropic spirit was birthed. The first 14 years of Lee Berkowitz's life were often turbulent and scary, especially around the insecurity of living in a Nazi world. But once her family was safe in America, she became acutely aware that each of us has to actively confront and undo the unfairness of life and help others do the same. Lee's life has become a living example of her belief, and she's chosen to give her full support to JFCS because of their diligence in making sure that 92 cents of every dollar donated to JFCS is used directly to help people in need. Both Lee and JFS are living proof of what a commitment to making a difference can do. As far as her legacy, I love it. She just hopes that her daughters, nieces, and friends will remember the good things that happened between them and generously forgive the not-so-nice things. She also challenges them to look for other attributes and figure out what they are. Either way, she just hopes to be remembered. This beautiful young woman claims she was first inspired to help others when she was a child watching her greatest influence, her dad, always feeding the kids who came into his grocery store. From sandwiches to candy, helping others just became a way of life. Also, her father's outspoken manner for things he perceived wrong greatly influenced her desire to continue to fight for the underdog and help others have a better life. But her most active giving years began when she started teaching and yearly sought out one problem child who she would work with personally to help turn around their life. When Carol Boutier Buchanan reached the Central Board in 1974, she used her greatest voice in training school counselors and creating equal opportunities for women administrators. She went on to become the president for the United Nations Development Fund for Women, and in most recent years, locally and nationally, has been the guiding force behind UNIFEM. Carol is a woman who is known and loved for always putting in her time, effort, and money, eager to stand shoulder to shoulder with others, to tackle any and all problems, which I might add is very similar to JFCS, that they have 26 programs that they offer in 15 locations throughout Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. Carol's intention for her legacy is a simple one: to be known as a good woman and a change artist for good. This beautiful young woman, wait a second. This, I put in the word here, they made me take it out, so I had to change it. I called her a feline, but they didn't want that. This sassy woman lying on this bearskin rug that her adored father and greatest influence caught and bagged, said that her desire to help others was birthed in high school, when she realized that she was not wealthy, brilliant, or particularly talented, but she had tons of energy, a network of friends across a very diversified spectrum, and off-the-chart optimism. She believed she could make a difference in bringing people and ideas together. She had the knack for it then, and she clearly has it now. As anyone that knows Margaret, she is a force worth reckoning with. Since starting and implementing the volunteer program in the Southwest Florida region in 2005, her SunTrust team has logged in over 54,000 hours, exceeding 11,000 hours per year for the past 2 years in Sarasota alone, helping all sorts of nonprofit organizations. With her heart-based and community leadership, she continues working with her vision of bringing together resources, talents, and services while she serves on numerous boards, clubs, and organizations, while picking up awards along the way. She is always looking for another way to help others. She believes you can truly make a difference and get things done if you have a vision. Similar to JFC's motto, we can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. to be there when you can't do it alone. Margaret lives her life through the lens of the words spoken by her hero, Ronald Reagan. There are no constraints on the human mind, no walls around the human spirit, no barriers to our progress, except the ones we create ourselves. She hopes that her legacy will be that she used her influence and communication skills for giving back and serving others to the best of her ability, that she lives a full, interesting life and often had the courage to do it with moral rightness. From a very early age, it was instilled in this Lena Horne look-alike, the importance of giving back and helping to make a difference in the lives of those less fortunate. Bobby Kennedy's call for action were words that became her daily mantra. Some people see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that have never were and say, why not? And forever has been firmly in that belief, why not, as to be Audrey's driving force in finding ways to help others. Oh, I shared her name. Well, there we go. Okay. Audrey Coleman feels recognized for her, she feels that being recognized for her accomplishments is really very unimportant, as a former educator who was always a committed volunteer. But that said, I couldn't resist sharing a few tidbits that I learned along the way. To begin with, in the mid-'80s, she was personally introduced to the White House to the President and Mrs. Reagan as one of the 10 most powerful women of color presidents of national organizations, as well as receiving an award for being one of the top 100 most influential African American women in the country when she was a national president of Lambda Kappa Mu? Yeah? Sorority, which, by the way, led her to meet quite a few other presidents along the way. I don't know about you, but I'm impressed. Since being in Sarasota, Audrey has been on the boards of numerous nonprofit organizations, including the arts, human services, and our community foundation. Why not is still her motto for helping in any way she can. As far as her legacy goes, Audrey feels as if she has had a fantastic life and is still trying to reach out and touch someone each and every day. If that is considered a legacy, that's good enough for her. This porcelain face, don't you love seeing these people when they're younger and trying to figure out how they are? I mean, it's just another piece of their life. I got such a kick out of doing it. Sorry, a little interjection there. This porcelain-faced beauty with the sparkling eyes was taught very early on by her immigrant parents the importance of charitable giving. But she truthfully never did much about it until she finally had the means as a businesswoman and came to realize how important it was to contribute back to the community in which she and her family have enjoyed so much success. I love it. B. Friedman's husband, Alan, was a pioneer in the phototyping industry, a self-taught engineer who was the innovator behind Filmotype, which was a Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, you need help. To what is now known as desktop publishing. And B was the treasurer and administrator force that helped make the company successful. She continued to run the company for years after he passed away until she finally sold it. Once she had the extra time on her hands and the need of the individuals and organizations became apparent, she became totally immersed in places she felt she could help to make a difference. Imagine, beautiful, savvy, generous, with a philanthropic spirit. What a combination. Her family is still her highest priority, but contributing to the arts, especially the Sarasota Orchestra, and supporting both the local and worldwide Jewish community has been very important to her. Being a small part of JFCS, being selected as the Agent of the Year by the Alliance of Children and Families, which, by the way, is an international membership association that represents 350 private, nonprofit children and family organizations, counts as one of the highlights of her life. For her legacy, she just hopes she has set the example of giving while living, so others can also experience the enjoyment from witnessing the results of their effort. As much as an identifier of trends as this woman is, seeing her wearing the glasses of the moment in the 60s, she felt that there was just too many individuals that influenced her life to single out one person. As another author quoted, circumstances and opportunity played a role in her life. You're going to know who that is. Carol, yay! In the late 60s, Carol Green was asked by her synagogue to represent them as a board member that was organizing a daycare center for low-income children from single-parent homes. It was extremely successful and morphed a dual-role volunteer role for her that she found vital and rewarding. The experience touched her so deeply, she soon found herself involved in numerous projects helping others. The two major projects that changed her life directly for helping others was becoming president of Weight Watchers, which I'm sure no one in this room is familiar with, in the four-state Rocky Mountain region, and the other was the formation of the Woman Bank of Colorado, whose mission it was to educate women in understanding and becoming responsible for their own financial situation. Even though vastly different, both held at their core the empowerment of women, as her commitment to the Glasser Schoenbaum Center and JFCS has shown. Always a trailblazer, she has a new book out now called Spiritual Transformation in America, which encourages the reader to think and take personal responsibility for further exploration about religion in America. As far as where her heart lies and what legacy she would like to leave behind, it can be best summed up with the golden rule: treat people as you would like to be treated yourself. To have been a woman who shined a light on the reality that as individuals and as a team, we can all build a better world for our children and grandchildren. Stunning, huh? This pearl-encrusted, fetching young woman has a captivating personality mixed with a bit of devil, as you can see in this comely portrait. When I asked her what birthed her desire to be philanthropic, she replied, having grown up poor, working my way through 16 years of school and then the next 40, being charitable wasn't on my radar until later in life when I felt financially secure. That's when I realized is that if there were no emails or tweets sent to heaven, I needed to start giving while still alive if I wanted affirmation that being charitable really does help to repair the world. Okay. Marilyn Harwell is all about communication. As a retired business book publisher and past president of Brandeis University National Women's Committee, and the first female of Pelican Cove Association, which she was the editor of both organizations. And as a nonpartisan, Marilyn has campaigned tirelessly and raised funds for both Democrats and Republicans, that's fair, nationally and locally. And with a few dedicated individuals, created the Forum of Truth and served as their treasurer until 2009. For the last 25 years, she has played an active role in various think tanks like SCOPE, Sarasota's Human Service Panel, and the Forum, as well as a board member for various nonprofit organizations, ITN, and, of course, JFCS. Which she is proud to say that in the first 9 months of this fiscal year, JFCS has contributed over $500,000 in emergency cash and rent assistance to families on the brink of homelessness. When I asked Marilyn her legacy, yeah, we can applaud JFCS for that. I think so. That's pretty credible. When I asked Marilyn what did she want her legacy to be, she said to me, "Look, she's still alive." To that I responded, "Marilyn, I can only assume that your goal is not to be honored by Willard Scott as being the oldest woman alive. So maybe there's something else you'd like to be remembered for?" "Okay," she said, "let my legacy be she is a constant work in progress, sucking it up when issues are daunting, and becoming a better and more charitable person with each success and failure." This exotic beauty grew up in a world where girls had little or no education, but her mother and father insisted upon it, knowing that knowledge and sharing it was the key to a full and accomplished life. The more you share, the more it grows, and no one can take it away from you. It is always there, was a concept and message that was truly brought home after the partition of India and Pakistan, when her family was forced to move to India with nothing. No material possessions, but an overabundant, fertile mind. And this is where her desire to give back was birthed. Dr. Mona Jan has spent a lifetime committed to positively influencing the issues that affect women of all ages. With the forever support of her husband and daughter, who lovingly call her a professional volunteer for women, she is going strong through UNIFAM and the initiative. Knowing that JFCS is providing almost 7,500 hours of service through 391 volunteers as mentors and compassionate home and hospital visitors to women and men of all ethnic and religious groups has helped further her personal cause. The purpose of her life, the legacy she hopes will live on, is that she empowers girls and women locally, nationally, and internationally to reach for the rainbow while keeping your feet firmly on the ground. She has passed the baton on to her daughter, Dr. Anita Jan, who also deeply believes in volunteerism and philanthropy. This shining beacon of light's desire to become truly philanthropic in the sense of giving back to mankind came rather late in life. The violin was her love, and her involvement in her musical career as a teacher and performer took over much of her earlier life. It wasn't until she went to work in her husband, the doctor's office in Dayton, Ohio, and met a woman who invited her to join the National Council of Jewish Women when she really got hooked. This picture represents one of the most memorable days of her life. When she is the chairman of the annual gala in Dayton, Ohio, she spearheaded the raising of $900,000 in bonds, which was an incredible accomplishment for those times in a very small town. The man in the middle, by the way, Georgie Jessel, in case you didn't know who it was, became her hero and her new BFF, best friend forever. When Florence Katz moved to Sarasota, she went back to her music in full force. As the volunteer conductor for the choir at Temple Beth Israel for 22 years, as well as a violinist in the Sarasota Pop Orchestra until she fractured her wrist. Now her greatest joy comes from all the people she helps through the Senior Outreach Service Program at JFCS, which helps more than 60 seniors each week maintain their independence and prevents them from feeling desperate and isolated. It's been 14 years now, and she's a major force. She hopes that her legacy might be that she helped to light the way for others to give of themselves to those less fortunate, to experience seeing a smile on someone's face, knowing that you've given so little to give so much back. When this bubbling beauty stopped to recall her first recollection of giving to others, she saw herself as a very young girl standing on a street corner with a little blue box collecting money for the Jewish National Fund. Growing up in a household where both her mother and father were always engaged in community service, service was simply a way of life. This woman was certainly a rare combination in her day, a great beauty who wasn't afraid to admit she had brains as well. Lee Levin was the first co-ed at NYU to be elected as president of the student council and to supervise their budget. This became a perfect outlet for her to use her natural talents for networking and discovering what the students wanted, and then going on to develop programs to fit their needs. This fine-tuned talent for making connections between people and new opportunities is still top of her list and one of her specialties today. Almost every organization that has the word woman in it, Lee has been an active supporter of. The Women's Resource Center, Today's Woman Chair, NCJ Woman of Power, Jewish Federation Women's Division, Women's League Fund, and the League of Women Voters, and so on. Plus, working on the homeless and less fortunate through JFCS, where the repair of the world is the concept that guides her work as well as her life. Lee believes that each one of us is responsible for the well-being of all, and that each positive action brings change, likened to dropping a petal in a pool of water. She hopes that her legacy would stand as an open invitation to her family, wonderful friends, and the people she knows, and all the community to strive to repair the world as well. This adorable pixie was deeply influenced by her parents. Even though neither one had a college education, they instilled in her and her siblings the desire to learn and always better themselves, leaving the world a better place. Her mother always wanted to be a nurse, but when her mom's mom was killed in a car accident, she had to return to their farm to help raise her sisters and gave up her dream. But her mom never stopped talking about nursing, which led the daughter who wanted to please her mom to become a candy striper. And eventually, she found the perfect fit. After Gwen McKenzie went on to get her master's degree in nursing, it became clear to her that it takes a team of professionals in many areas to truly make differences in the business of health, which birthed her career in management. As a facilitator, creating the space for others to do their best work, which she is obviously brilliant at, as we can see from the national respect that our Sarasota Memorial Hospital has gleaned since her arrival, she is doing quite well. Gwen's heart lies in providing the best health care to our community that Sarasota Memorial Hospital can give. But she doesn't only want to provide the most competent and state-of-the-art care, but she wants the hospital to be known as the most caring, the mark she hopes to leave in the way that delivering care should be, with the kindest and most empathetic behavior. Gwen has gone on to lend her support and efforts to the American Heart Association, the wellness community, AIDS, juvenile diabetes, Oslo, Girls Inc., and Hearts of Fire, which is physicians donating their skills in third world countries. Even though her mom was her original influence, her wonderful husband of 31 years, Doug, has gone on to carry the torch, being very generous with his time and many volunteer activities. So she can only hope that her legacy will be that she's a positive, as positive as her role models, influence on others. This young teacher, filled with the hopes and dreams of changing the world, believes that her desire was first birthed when she connected with those fertile minds eager to learn from her. When the kids would turn to her for help in various situations or tasks, she realized that a no or negative response would only get her to try a new and different approach. And that thinking in more positive ways was always much more rewarding to her. Helen McBean was aware that both her parents were always there for her, but she would have to say that her mother, Beatrice Bennett, influenced her the most. She had style, grace, was a wonderful dancer, and a beautiful singing voice, which Helen often tries to channel when no one is around. But her best gift was to instill in her the idea to always think positively and treat others the way you want to be treated. Always the teacher and guide to a better way, Helen has become a positive influence at numerous organizations, including the Ringley College Library Association, Montmarine, the Wellness Center, and Newtown, Sarasota, just to name a few. She's also very involved with a special event called Embracing Our Differences. She's a very caring and busy lady. Her legacy would to leave a positive footprint, footprints that reflect her respect for her family, her role as a mentor to women, especially minority women, and finally knowing that she's tried to treat all of God's creatures the way she wants to be treated, with love, empathy, and most of all, with respect. This is one of these women you love to hate, since she still looks almost the same as she did when she was 15. And that's after living in Florida most of her life, so for sunscreen. Which, by the way, 15 was when she discovered her passion and began her esteemed journalistic career. Starting in second grade, she first experienced the joy that came with being positively giving back, as she routinely accompanied her adored maternal grandmother to the poorest neighborhoods in her hometown, which was Lake Wales, Florida. They delivered food and clothing, taking kids to Sunday school, or some other mission that Oma couldn't resist. She taught her that a consistent quality of really caring about doing the right thing and helping others less fortunate is the only way to live your life. Told you she looked the same. Diane McFarland was attracted to the newspaper business because at the most fundamental level, a newspaper's mission is to serve the public. And she feels most grounded when she's involved with something tied to the community service. Since 1999, when she was promoted to publisher of the Herald Tribune, she has used her high profile to truly make a difference in the fundraising efforts of numerous nonprofit organizations, specifically the All Faith Food Bank Capital Campaign, and in launching the Season of Sharing charitable funds in partnership with the Community Foundation of Sarasota, which, by the way, this year brought in over $1.5 million to be distributed throughout the community this year. Wow. Yeah. And because this community is so wise and savvy, they have chosen as one of the 10 local social services to distribute the funds, JFCS. So, very smart, right? The right people doing the right thing. Diane's passion for the written word has actively involved her in national organizations, including being a 6-time juror for the Pulitzer Prize. But as far as her legacy goes, she just hopes to be remembered as a woman who has a track record for doing well, whether it's through the Herald Tribune organization or as an individual who truly cares. Now, if you look carefully at this photograph, you will see a precious little girl taking care of a child even smaller than she is. Someone who needs her help. Does that ring a bell? As far back as this ray of sunshine can remember, she always was taking care of others, probably because of the compassion for the less fortunate and need to protect others that her loving, nurturing parents instilled in her from birth. A butterfly kissing Gracie McGillicuddy's face couldn't be more appropriate, as butterflies represent rebirth, and her life's mission is to provide a rebirth for children with a damaged past. As I said, maybe it's because her parents were always so protective of her and her sister. But when she read about a tragic death of an abused little baby named Shannon Nicole, she said to her beloved partner, "Enough jewelry. I need to use my good fortune to find a way to protect children that have been abused." Now all her passion and energy is in making a safer and better world for all our children to live in. She is on the Governor's Children Abuse Prevention Advisory Board. She's a fierce fundraiser and on-hands worker for the Child Protection Center and the All-Star Children's Foundation. In fact, anything else that she can get her hands in helping children to know a life of love without fear is where she's at. Among other things, she was also awarded the Florida Senate Medallion for Outstanding Leadership and Dedication. Beside her parents, her greatest influence is also her soulmate, best friend, and husband, Dennis, who has not only given her his unwavering support, but has given her the opportunity to partner with him in giving back to the Sarasota Studio Theater and Embracing Our Indifferences, which is an outdoor exhibit featuring art pieces chosen from artists of all ages all over the world, and they each interpret the message, enriching lives through diversity. Gracie hopes her legacy will be sort of like the quote on the cup that she uses for coffee every morning. You must be the change you want to see in the world, especially in helping the wee ones. She is most proud when she sees she has passed that nurturing and caring spirit onto her daughter Allison and her son Dennis and their adorable grandchildren. This playful imp couldn't possibly have turned out any different than the woman many of us have come to know and adore. Encouraged by her parents, Maurice and Barbara Hirsch, she is following their lead to be an active community leader and member of several boards, simply doing it with grace, love, and dedication. The Israeli Six-Day War was the impetus for her first large donation. Always encouraged to follow her heart, she realized she loved the feeling of being able to make a difference and help others and to be useful. Carolyn Michael has worked in almost every area of the theater since she was a child, from producer and director to actor and stage manager, and has worked with some of the most exciting and talented names in show business. In fact, she's such a talented lady, she has been asked to reprise her sold-out one-woman show, Family Secrets, at FST this April, which, by the way, I was so impressed with it when I saw it. As a total unknown, she probably thought I was a fan stalking her, sat down and wrote her a note. That's how good she is at it. But her efforts on behalf of so many charitable organizations and fundraising efforts is really truly her claim to fame. For years, she has helped raise funds for AIDS, the Oslo, Women's Research Center, the Arts Council, and various benefits to assist resettling Soviet Jews, which, by the way, In 1985, JFCS was the first to reach out to homebound, isolated seniors and Russian immigrants settled in Sarasota. She's also served on numerous boards, including the Art Council, Boys and Girls Club Foundation, Florida Studi, and the Van Wezel Foundation. The list of her activities goes on and on. Carolyn's philanthropy, community service, and social activism comes from the heart and from a long-standing family tradition, and that is what she would like her legacy to be. Carolyn loves using her talents to help charitable causes, and she gets back so much more than she gives. I mean, like, what fun is that? You might not recognize who this baby is, but you might recognize the boa, which is still her signature accessory. But it was when she was a very young thing that her adored father lifted her up every week to put coins in the Sudaka box at her Sudaka box, correct? Okay. As her mother would always remind her of how important it is to always help others in need. This teaching was reinforced at her synagogue in Chicago and her participation as a young Judah and B'nai B'rith girl. Nikki Nylon's heart lies with the most needy, the struggling single woman, the mentally ill, the homeless, the alcohol and drug addicted. With that in mind, she channels her efforts into forwarding the good work done by the Salvation Army, the Thorn of Grace, Girls Inc., the Pines, Darfur Outreach, and Embracing Our Differences. The Jewish Foundation also gets a lot of her attention, just to name a few. Supporting the retired social workers who serve as intake phone volunteers assessing the needs of clients seeking service from JFCS is just one of the many reasons this organization is high up on her list. For her legacy, she wants to be remembered as a good and true friend and a woman who never outgrew her love of a boa or the courage to wear it. Nora Patterson feels that there has been three major influences in her life. The first one was her mom, who was responsible for birthing the desire to help others less fortunate. Because she felt so strongly that so many people had a very hard life, she encouraged her to get a good education so that she could use it in a way that would benefit others less fortunate. The message of giving back was always in her heart and mind as she forged ahead in her personal and public life. Since 1994, Nora has been involved on many different levels in Sarasota government, including being the mayor of Sarasota, the Sarasota Board of Commissioners, and the Committee for Intergovernment Relationships, always trying to better the need of the citizens of Sarasota. Nora has been honored with the Citizen of the Year and Woman in Power Award, and with her next major accomplishment, which was marrying her next influence, her husband John. Together, they have donated their time, talent, and money to organizations such as United Way, Girls Inc., JFCS, ITN, etc. Both of them believe it is their responsibility to share their good fortune with others. Her third greatest influence was her daughter Kim, a truly wonderful person who loved adventure and the outdoors and would have given the shirt off her back with a smile if she thought she needed it. Clearly, she was a chip off the old block. Nora is so appreciative of the opportunity her job gives her to leave the legacy of a little better and stronger community with more possibilities for young people. This lady is just as beautiful now as she was when she was an opera singer working in Broadway shows. In fact, she probably would still be there if it wasn't for the lead in another fabulous production, and that was the wife of Bob and the mother of Janice and her twin sons, David and Jeff. a lead role that she thoroughly was enjoying until her son David was diagnosed with schizophrenia at 18, and that's when her entire world fell apart. Even though Lee Peterson was advised to put her son away, she and her husband decided instead to keep him home and make it their mission to learn as much as they could about mental illness and share it with others dealing with or affected by the disease. It was then that she met some of the millions of people afflicted by mental illness, which the scientists were ignorant about, and realized that she had to use her good fortune to help others. For many years, the Peterson Foundation has flown doctors in from all over the world and presented them at a free symposium for the community at large, for continually educating them and generously helping people talk about their disease and help to find solutions. The fact that JFCS provides counseling on a sliding scale basis starting at $35 an hour for anyone who needs it also ups her commitment. By the way, for all of you that are curious, thanks to Lee and Bob's commitment, David has grown into a terrific man and a brilliant artist. Now, this certainly would have been enough for anyone, but not for Lee, as so many of the nonprofits in this room know, as she has continued to spread her good fortune through the human services as well as the arts. This caring, loving woman has a strong commitment to giving back to our beautiful community that she so adores. Hopefully, her legacy will be that she made a lasting difference in the management of all the mental illnesses, as well as her cherished arts, education, and public support groups. If anyone ever lived by the quote, "Laugh often, dream big, reach for the stars," it would certainly be this young woman who, in her more mature version, is still smiling and looking up. Her best friend, cheerleader, critic, and unconditional support and major influence was her sister Lorraine. She taught her lessons that have become her guiding star throughout her life. Give with your heart and find your joy in helping others with dignity and compassion. As a child of the theater, she was actually a stand-in for Carol Channing on Broadway. She always knew to give back, but her personal inspiration started with Golda Meir and the creation of Israel. This great leader believed that our lives belong to the community and that it is our privilege to do for it whatever we can, as long as we shall live. And that is the true spirit of philanthropy. Even though Florrie Roberts is considered one of the great geniuses of the entrepreneurial world, and has gone on to be an acclaimed mentor and champion of women business owners, her heart always belongs to her family first. They make everything a new adventure for me and allow Grandma Mame, to shine and share in their life. But in her spare time, which by the way was what she likes doing better than anything, but in her spare time, she's managed to be a force worth reckoning with, as she brings awareness and funds to the YMCA, the Wellness Community, Advisory Board for Women's Businesses, Girls Inc., JFCS, Oslo, African American Empowerment Associations, Lupus, and the list goes on. As for her legacy, she would like to be thought of as a work in progress. But here is the piece that I offer now. She said to me, "May my personal journey help women and girls of this generation and the next realize their full potential as major social, economic, and philanthropic forces in the world, because we deserve it." When this pinup told me that her self-esteem and self-worth was very low when she was younger, until boys started to notice her, I think we can all agree from looking at the portrait we can see how that happened. She shared with me that her mother had the most influence over her, positively and negatively. Her mom's dedicated quest to save the world taught her the value of personal and financial altruism. The negative was her insistence that her only child was ugly, flighty, and dumb. Ironically, it was from her deep down need to find acceptance from others that birthed her first signs of philanthropy. When she was a kid, she would bring kids home less fortunate to give them her clothes or anything that would make them happy. And then she would solicit the neighbors for all sorts of worthy causes until they finally saw her coming and began to hide. Since then, Marianne Robinson has become unstoppable. And as many of you know, hiding from her is simply impossible. If the cause involves any group that she feels is being prejudiced against, abused, too young or too old to experience themselves in providing a wonderful or fun education, Marianne is on the case, or at least they're bored. Designing Women's Boutique, YMCA, Community AIDS Network, West Coast Black Theater Company, Spark, Sarasota Ballet, and the Circus, Catholic Charities, Goodwill, and the list goes on, as her generosity has no border or boundaries. Her latest experience working with abused inner city children for the last 7 years has made her realize the greatest potential for her lies in helping others realize their potential. Her heart still lies where it began, doing as much as she can for as long as she can to support people and causes she cherishes. Hopefully, she'll be remembered as someone who tried to do just that. This budding prima ballerina has danced her way into the hearts of so many, but her lifelong sensitivity to the problems of others began when she was a youngster in Cuba, especially while witnessing the difficult times experienced by the refugees who fled Europe during the Nazi regime. Emulating her father and mother's continual efforts to help others less fortunate became the blueprint for her life. Carol Siegler spent many nights sitting around the family dining room table, listening to the elaborate plans being made to get supplies, help, and figuring out ways for the needy to find ways to support themselves and regain their personal pride and dignity. In fact, it wasn't as much as a shock as it certainly would have been for most of us when she returned home one day to find her entire room emptied. As she later learned, it was to be given to a family who had absolutely nothing in their home and needed it more than she did. Fast forward, and you see a woman who has spent most of her adult life doing the same thing, finding ways to help others while always giving them the means to find their personal pride and enjoy their lives. Through the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies at St. Leo's College, American Jewish Committee, Senior Friendship Center, Guardian Ad Litem, YMCA, Girls Inc., Spark, etc., she has continued to keep herself and others on their toes. She is one of the fortunate ones in the sense that she's already realizing her legacy, to see her children and grandchildren following in her parents' footsteps by establishing themselves as social activists and finding their own way of contributing to the betterment of humanity. Now, this bright-eyed college girl was already well-versed in the art of giving back, as she herself had already started in high school with tutoring programs for kids struggling with reading. Once she realized how a little help and attention can result in advancing reading scores, she felt compelled to spend as much time as she could in tutoring programs, and by the time this photo was taken, she was already involved in a counseling program plus student teaching. But it was her father, her greatest influence and greatest example of how a person should never, this is a great one for all of us, Thanks, Dad. Her greatest influence, how a person should never reduce or eliminate giving just because things are tight. In fact, those are the times you should give more, led her to eventually become an English teacher in high school. When she thought about it, Barbara Seymour believed her greatest wake-up call came during her first year of teaching a 10th grade English class with a little boy aptly named Michael Lawless. He struggled in the class, and when she was working with him, he burst out, "I hate reading." She thought, how could this child be 16 and no one's dealt with his reading issue in this high-achieving school? Because she has a son that she deals with that has dyslexia, she realized that every child could be taught, and this became her vision. Ohio State in Columbus, the other half of her life, is now involved in a $50 million program called Reading Recovery, which addresses the reading issues for high-risk children. She's also working on a family stabilization initiative through programs to keep children in their schools and in their homes to facilitate learning through a homelessness prevention program. Hopefully her legacy will be seen as a champion for helping to assure that millions of kids get to read at a grade level. And through her efforts, others will also help other children to read and be successful. So, here is this cute little girl who has just been told by her parents that if everyone in her cold, wintry Nebraska community contributed, they could raise the funds to build the new YMCA, which would then have a wondrous indoor swimming pool, and that they wanted to know if she wanted to contribute to this. Well, it wasn't going to come from her allowance because at the time she was saving all that for the purchase of a troll doll. So she asked her parents how could she earn some money to contribute to the new Y. Her mother said that if she would weed the yard, she would pay her 1 penny per dozen dandelions. So 600 dandelions later, she had 50 cents to contribute to the new Y. Now remember, this was early 60s, and to a little kid, that was a huge contribution. So she tromped down to the Chamber of Commerce, plucked in her 50 cents worth of change into the big contribution jar, and it was such a great feeling, she was sold on community service. Lisa Walsh has since contributed to a lot of swimming pools being built, metaphorically speaking. And between her own personal efforts and the numerous support that is given to the community through the Observer Group, which was formed in 1995 by Lisa and her husband Matt and her parents, Dave and Ruth Belle-Isle. There you go, it took a lot of getting. She learned her first lesson in philanthropy. Spark, the Wellness Community, Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, Selby Gardens, Girls Inc., Sarasota Ballet, which one of her beautiful daughters, by the way, is a principal, are just a few of the organizations that she's lucky enough to have her in their loop. As far as her legacy, she feels she's living it now, watching her daughter Emily and Kate and her son Brian already surpassing those of her parents or grandparents, and continuing with the family legacy of community service means everything to her. And who knows how they will end up contributing to this community now that they have their grandson Reese as part of the team. When I asked this woman of valor to send in a photograph of the time in her life when philanthropy was birthed, she sent me this beautiful portrait taken on her wedding day. Because as far as she is concerned, that was the beginning of the rest of her life, and everything that she's become began on that day. Sally Adamowitz feels that her greatest influence was her beloved husband, Irv, as philanthropy and community service were always a part of his life, and it became an integral part of their life together from the very beginning. He taught her that Jews are members of a greater society, and as such, their actions cannot be limited to their own community. The Hebrew word takul olam, which means to increase the well-being of humankind and to help those who are in need as one of the key elements for repairing the world embodies the spirit of philanthropy that has added immeasurably to her life. So it's no surprise that she's chosen to support organizations that also have the same philosophy, like JFCS. And the Perlman Program, Jewish Housing Council, American Jewish Committee, Planned Parenthood, Embracing Our Differences, and the Sarasota Ballet, just to name a few. As the recipients of the NCJW Woman in Power Award, she sees her legacy as a mother who taught her daughters and granddaughters to live by these same values. Taku Alam is repairing the world. So, as we are bringing our close to the end, I just want to repeat, these angels are among us and deserve our applause. They are Shirus ready to fight for another cause. Queen among queens, leaders who carry the ball, these are women of valor, a blessing to us all.
Thank you for coming today, and thank you for recognizing these women who have made such a significant impact through their commitment and service to people and to Sarasota and Manatee counties.